Hey everyone, welcome back to OCD Recovery's YouTube channel. I am going to talk about how I applied acceptance, unconditional self-life, other acceptance in smaller areas of my life before I had to move towards the bigger ones, such as fear, the fear of being stuck with OCD for the remainder of my life. All the kind of little mistakes that we make in trying to force acceptance and little things such as the law of attraction and breaking those things down, and why I think those things can hold people back when it comes to unconditional self-life, other acceptance. This is a request I got on the YouTube channel. I like to go through that and ask people stuff they'd like to see me cover, and then I kind of go through a plethora of those things. Before I go any further, please comment, like, subscribe. Count's been growing, channel's been growing, almost 11,000 subs. Thank you so much. Our Facebook group is almost at 18,000. It's fully moderated. We're very, very aware of reassurance seeking, venting. You know, when someone comes in, they're new and they really don't know because they've been with another type of OCD form, they might be more used to venting or looking for reassurance and no one's ever told them. We do it in a respectful way, but we do have certain rules. If someone's completely posting over and over and over again, we put them on the 30-day post moderation. We let them know because it's the best thing for the sufferer. And if you're interested in our coaching and webinar services, please email us at info@ocdrecovery.com. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the law of attraction and why there's probably no such thing as the law of attraction, and it's probably all coincidence. Now, human beings are always looking for a meaning in their life, a power to give them an overall sense of purpose. And when people lose that in an identity sense, they go through what people call an identity crisis. And the reason why they go through an identity crisis is because they've attached their entire identity to some universal meaning or some deity, whatever you believe in. And it's very important to realize that we work with many people from different countries, you know, Middle East, where there's a very religious doctrine area. People can recover with any belief they want. It's not the belief in God or any type of deity that gets someone into trouble. It's the demandingness that this must exist. I know for a fact this exists and you're wrong, where OCD will kind of tangle in there and grip its teeth in because it loves those certainties that you're looking for. These are the things that really held me back. But the law of attraction, I'll look it up right here. I got my computer here. I want to see exactly what it says because I do think this is important to go through. So, law of attraction. Okay. So this is on the website. The law of attraction is a new thought, spiritual belief that positive or negative thoughts bring positive or negative experiences into one's life. And this is not true. Now, we know it's not true because it's very easy to break it down. OCD sufferers tend to understand that they can have really negative, really scary, intrusive thoughts and still experience many good moments. Now, the reason why we want things like this to be so easy, we tend to think if we think easy things and we tend to think positive thoughts, then we're going to have everything we want in life. And for some people, the coincidence of this is more than the average person. And that person takes that, packages it into an ideology and a doctrine, and then tells people that this is the way it is. But the way that the world is, it's really completely randomized in many ways. And there is no universal purpose. And even something like, you know, and this is a great place to start, you know, how do I become a better person? Well, there's no such thing as a good person. And people say, well, that's not true, Nick. There's a universal purpose to being a good person. Maybe. I'm not saying the benefits of working towards characteristic traits of being a better person is not ideal, whether that's in a religious sense or a personal sense with personal meaning. It's why the book Man's Search for Meaning is on the reading list. But there are people out there who commit horrendous actions who obviously don't have a universal purpose of being good all the time. This is pretty easy to break down once you've practiced this for a couple years. The Myth of Self-Esteem, the book on the reading list, is really good for that. So, you know, again, the philosophy suggesting that positive thoughts bring positive results in a person's life. Let's see the three laws of attraction. Like attracts like, nature abhors a vacuum, and the present and always perfect. Not true on any of those counts. Like does not always attract like. You can be as positive as you want, and it's not going to bring you any sort of like guaranteed. The present is always perfect. That's certainly not true. I don't think the people in Auschwitz would have said that. And people say, oh, you're using an outlier. There are many people that are not enjoying their present moment because they have a belief that their life should be better, they should be making more money, they should be better looking physically attracted, they shouldn't be dealing with OCD. We tell ourselves stuff such as the law of attraction because it makes us feel good. But once you break it down and realize that this is probably much more problematic, and yes, there are principles from the law of attraction that have applicability, but overall, when you're looking at the individuals who are big believers in the law of attraction, in my opinion, they're very hocus pocusy in many ways, and it seems too good to be true. The law of attraction is very different than Stoicism, and Stoicism, in our opinion, is based much more off the realities of life, that life isn't fair and deservedness isn't real. So I wanted to open up the video for 5 or 6 minutes talking about the law of attraction, since I get asked about that a lot. Now, you're not going to be able to break down your largest fears, such as the fear of being stuck forever, okay? Moving towards that with unconditional self-life, other acceptance, primarily unconditional life acceptance. You're not going to be able to break down the fallible human, actual realities of life and breaking down self-esteem. There's no such thing as self-esteem, not in the way that people imagine it to be. Self-esteem, 99.9% of the time, is always conditional. In order to accept myself, I have to have good values. And this is a Pandora's box of problems because no one is perfect. Now, Albert Ellis talks about task perfection, separating that from overall perfection. Now, I live my life very much by perfecting tasks, but my expectations in my life are not determined by my identity. They're not determined by me being a good person or a better person. And something that Rob always says is comparison is the thief of joy, which is another thing you want to break down. So think about some smaller things in your life where you really struggle with maybe little hits of anger and resentment. Maybe someone cuts you off on the road. Maybe someone cuts you off in the grocery store. These are great times and life exposures because life is going to give you a plethora of frustration exposures to apply the unconditional self-life, other acceptance, such as, hey, look, it's really frustrating that this person cut in front of me, but it's not the end of the world. I can withstand that internal feeling of needing to get that off my chest. Almost all of the world's problems are based off of a human or a group of people unwilling at the current time to handle some sort of emotional discomfort, such as the feeling of rage and guilt and shame, the feeling of anxiety, not wanting to internalize that because we're living in a society right now where it's a word vomit, getting it off your chest. And there is a balance because if you go back to, what was called the world's greatest generation, the World War II era, they didn't talk about anything. And if I had to be black and white, which I'm just using this for completely an example, where no one talked about anything versus everyone talks about everything, I would pick the nobody talks about anything. Because it teaches you to not need reassurance and teaches you that you don't need to vent. And venting and reassurance seeking and self-reassuring statements and mantras over and over again, they don't actually teach you how to solve problems. They mask their band-aids on a much bigger problem. So those are 2 examples how to do. Food. Now, there's nothing wrong if your food comes out incorrectly. This has happened to me. And there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, look, this is the wrong order or stuff like that. But learning how to not yell at the waiter or put them down, or maybe even like, hey, I'm going to eat the wrong meal. That's a stoic. A lot of the stoic tests, putting yourself in situations purposefully with balance, because with OCD, we need to take stoicism. We have to take RBT principles, CBT principles, ACT principles, philosophy principles, such as Taoism, etc., and we have to tweak them towards the OCD and anxiety sufferer because the OCD and anxiety sufferer are constantly looking for a way out of their suffering. So they need to be tweaked through very customized and individual experience. Experiencing OCD is a gift in many ways. Not the suffering itself, but the ability to learn from it and apply it to your life and then help other people. And that's why I do all the coaching and webinar services. So that's a good one. Another tiny one is looking at things, not maybe purposely, but maybe coming across something about, religion, money, politics, those things that might aggravate you, and then breaking it down and try to put yourself in the shoes of the other person and saying to yourself, why am I correct? Am I actually correct? Where is the evidence to prove that I am correct? Where is the evidence to prove that they're an overall moron? Oh, they have this belief, they're an idiot. Oh, they have this political view, they're a moron. But right now, this is difficult because we're living in a society where it's very much a me. It's always been a me against you mentality, but it's getting worse and the divide is getting worse. We see this all over the place, where constructive criticism has gone out the window. The ability to face harsh realities has gone out the window for many people. And it's not about agreeing with one another all the time. It's about accepting someone unconditionally while coming to a mutual disagreement. And that's one of the cornerstones of human maturity. I always say this quote, Jim Rohn, the late Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins' mentor, who died in '07, said one of the most personal signs of human maturity is personal responsibility. And that is the same thing with having a conversation with someone. So those are other little great places to try acceptance. And when you grab the book, the first book on the reading list, which you can find at OCDrecovery.com, you want to break down some of the smaller ones first. Because like I said, severe harm and POCD, those beliefs will need some untangling and will take some time to feel a whole lot of guilt, shame, anxiety, depersonalization, and derealization. So let's just use a little one, such as maybe like a political conversation. So the activating event, this is the dib sheet, A plus B equals C. Activating event plus belief system, primarily the belief system, equals consequence. Yes, activating events will have different levels of severity. It's very difficult to go to someone whose family member was, say, murdered and say, hey, look, it's just your beliefs why you're upset. It's all custom and individual to the and specific to the individual you're working with. So let's say activating event is I'll have a friend named Johnny. Johnny called me an idiot. We got into a fight over politics. These are my irrational beliefs that hold the cycle together. He must not say those things. He's a horrible person for thinking different than me. I can't stand. Listen to how much people just throw away I can't stand. I mean, I know I use that term all the time. I don't use the words horrible, terrible. I don't use the phrase I can't stand it. And many people say, Nick, that's semantics. That doesn't really matter. It does. If you wake up every single day and you tell yourself, I can't recover, this is the worst thing ever, then you're right. You're not going to be able to recover. I believe it's Henry Ford's quote, whether you think you can or can't, you're probably right. Think about that. Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or can't, you're probably right. And because you have those strong, irrational beliefs about your friend with politics, that will lead to a plethora of behaviors, such as avoiding that person completely. Boundaries are overused today. I have people in my life where I have to apply certain boundaries with, but it's much more sparingly than the social media posts and YouTube world will kind of make it out to be. And our community too, the mental health community that we're all involved in. People will say stuff like, oh, that person has a different view than you, cut them out. Well, you're putting a stone in a bucket that's getting heavier and heavier, filled with low frustration tolerance. I always tell people, again, there's no right or wrong here, but you're more than likely better off learning how to build your frustration tolerance in that regard. And I think that's a very, very important thing. And this can lead to anger, resentment, and those are the emotions. So when you break this one down, you'll say, hey, look, where is holding this belief that my friend is an idiot getting me? Well, it's getting me nowhere because it's internalizing a lot of anger sensations that I don't want to feel and you're trying to run from. Is it really awful when people see things differently than me? No. No matter what you view, I think it's a good topic to talk about because many people have political views that they get very angry about. They hold political views, and I have political views. I have all sorts of different views. But those views are my views, and you're never going to be able to change anyone's mind no matter how much you yell at them. Trust me, I've made this mistake 1,000 times. It's why people don't get anywhere. When you yell at someone and berate them and beat them over the head with a belief, weaponizing rational thinking, as my wife used to call it, the natural human tendency is to internalize that and combat you. So, is this person a totally bad person? No, obviously not. They have thousands, if not millions of characteristic traits over, let's say Johnny's 30. Now, let's go to what we call the effective new philosophy, which creates your new beliefs such as healthy frustration, sorrow, that, oh wow, maybe we can't talk about this conversation too much. And that is I would really like it if Johnny had the same views with me, but as he's a different person, he more than likely won't. It may be bad or unfortunate, but it's not 100% awful. Johnny and I can still enjoy many things together outside of talking about politics. And then that is how you will break down those smaller things. Another key point to end the video on is when you're changing these beliefs around these small minor tasks, whether it's your dog pulling you and yanking your arm. That was a big one that annoyed me because I had a belief that this must not happen. You're going to have to learn to wear all those sticky emotions you don't want to feel. You don't have to do any grounding techniques. You don't have to do any moment-by-moment meditation techniques. Nothing wrong with meditation. Don't see a lot of positive with grounding techniques. Even for non-sufferers, they don't really make any changes. Mantras over and over again are the same thing to me. I don't see a bunch of benefit with mantras, especially because people think they're going to write a bunch of sticky notes on their mirror and change their behavioral habits. Most things in your life come from change of your behavior and withstanding discomfort. So thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you think, whether you agree with me or not, in the comments below. I'm always up to having a conversation that's constructive. You know, when people, there's many people we disagree. We're humans. We're going to disagree on things. Rob and I disagree on things. Moman and I disagree on things. But we always come to some sort of mutual, unconditional acceptance because we apply that. And it's the best thing for our friendships and our work environment with all the coaching and everything like that. So thank you again. If you're interested in our coaching and webinar services, please email us at info@ocdrecovery.com and we'll get back to you in a timely fashion. Have a good one, everyone.